never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotion. Got my statement, and I'm reading it slow so I can understand it fully. Appreciate my standing, go out of this world and right on time. Oh, never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I'm far away from Earth and I wanna know if you exist. Mission control, do you read me? Send me my coordinates lately. Mission control, am I drifting? Tie me to someone who will love me. Yeah, wait, I think I'll last a bit longer. Fine.
Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. If you were not at SWA Wrestling last night, 244 Livestock Road, Easton Isle, Georgia, you missed another great night of wrestling action. We'll talk more about that show coming up later on this week. Hopefully I will see some of you wrestling fans this afternoon at 6687 Highway 72 West Colbert, Georgia. Doors open at 4 o'clock. Bell time will be 4:30 for the Ultimate Wrestling Federation. See all the follow-up from UWF Revenge, which was 2 weeks ago today on the Sunday before Halloween. It's our first show since UWF Revenge. And I mentioned it in yesterday's video, so I'll say it again. I apologize for my videos from this past week. I'm not really sure what happened, but normally, I try to have all of my videos loaded first thing in the morning so that when you get up before you start your day and as you're starting your day, you can sit down and watch the video before you head off to work. But Monday's video didn't load until sometime late Monday afternoon. Tuesday's video never loaded, so finally about 9 o'clock Tuesday night, I just said forget it and just stopped the video. Wednesday and Thursday were okay, and then Friday's video didn't load until yesterday morning about 9 o'clock. So I encourage you to go back and watch Friday's video and watch yesterday's video as well. I know Friday's video was previewing some of the college football games from yesterday. So all the games have been played now, but there's a few topics on there that I discussed outside of the games. So I would encourage you to go ahead and go back and watch that video, and hopefully I'll have some better luck this week. Friday, I believe the problem was the weather, because in my neck of the woods, it was ugly all day long. Friday, starting early Friday morning and going to late Friday night, but Tuesday and Monday, I'm not really sure what the issue was, so hopefully I'll have some better luck this week with the videos. But any thoughts on any other college football games from yesterday, please feel free to let me know. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the games from yesterday. We had Vanderbilt snapping a 26-game losing streak inside the SEC by defeating Kentucky 24-21. And I know a man who is a huge Kentucky fan, and I saw him last night at SWA, and he is very upset about the loss. And I told him it's funny because Kentucky's, they're 6-4, so they're pretty much right where they are every year. They pretty much win, 7 or 8 games every year now. But going into this year with Will Levis returning, as good as he is, it looked like they had a chance to have a special season, because in years past, their problem's always been they can run the ball, but they just can't throw the ball. And they finally have a quarterback who can throw, but they're still just middle of the pack. That's what they are. They just can't get past being stuck in neutral. LSU, in just an ugly, ugly, ugly game, defeats Arkansas by the score of 13-10. The only thing that saved LSU in that game was the fact that Arkansas had absolutely no offense whatsoever because LSU's offense looked pitiful. Pittsburgh all over Virginia by the score of 37-7. Duke wins again. They beat Virginia Tech by the score of 24-7. Duke is now 7-3 on the season, so you would never know they have a first time head coach since they're 7-3. Ohio State all over Indiana. Final score 56-14. Tennessee all over Missouri. Final score 66-24. North Carolina defeats Wake Forest by the score of 36-34. The game was high scoring, but not quite as high scoring as I thought it would be. Georgia defeats Mississippi State in the Battle of the Bulldogs. The Georgia Bulldogs come out on top 45-19. At least Mississippi State knows that dogs is spelled D-O-G-S. Maybe they can teach Georgia that dogs is spelled D-O-G-S. TCU in a much, much, much lower scoring game than everybody thought. They defeat Texas by the score of 17-10. Central Florida now looking pretty good as far as being the highest ranked Group of 5 team because they defeat Tulane by the score of 38-31, and Liberty lost yesterday to UConn by the score of 36-33. So Central Florida should be and probably will be the highest ranked Group of 5 team. So right now they're looking pretty good as that Group of 5 team playing in a New Year's Six bowl game. We had Kansas State all over Baylor, a game that most thought would be competitive. It wasn't. Kansas State wins by the score of 31-3. Oklahoma State gets back on the winning side by defeating Iowa State by the score of 20-14. And I guess the biggest upset of the weekend, Washington defeats Oregon by the score of 37-34, and that will shake up the playoff poll when it comes out Tuesday night, since Oregon was ranked in the top 10. I know I said back around week 2 or 3 that if Michael Penix Jr. stayed healthy, the Huskies had a chance to have a pretty good football team. And after beating Oregon last night, they're now sitting at 8-2 on the season. Alabama beats Ole Miss by the score of 30-24. Clemson defeats Louisville by the score of 31-16. Boston College upsets NC State by the score of 21-20. And I was listening to the Clemson pregame show yesterday morning, and they were talking about how DJU is very, very cautious with the football and how he just cannot stand to make mistakes. And when he makes one, it just tears him up on the inside. And then I got to thinking about how Cade Klubnik pretty much thinks he can just make every throw there is. So you've got one quarterback who is overly cautious and one quarterback who is not cautious enough. But the Clemson offense looked really, really good yesterday. The problem the last 2 weeks has been execution. And yesterday they actually executed the way they're supposed to. So hopefully their offense now is getting back to what it should be. It's not elite. It's not top 10. It's probably not top 20. But it should be top 40. In the last 2 weeks has not been close to top 75. So hopefully after yesterday defeating Louisville, their offense is turning things around and getting back to where it should be. And Notre Dame wins again. They defeat Navy by the score of 35-32. Notre Dame has definitely been a different team ever since their 0-2 start to the season. Purdue defeats Illinois by the score of 31-24. Florida State all over Syracuse by the score of 38-3. Florida State still has a chance to have a 10-win season, but they have to win out. But that is very, very possible. And Iowa defeats Wisconsin by the score of 24-10. And the Miami Hurricanes, after looking pitiful for just about the last month, they finally get back on the winning side yesterday by defeating Georgia Tech by the score of 35-14. The Hurricanes have played so bad that honestly I didn't think they were going to win a game the rest of the year, but they're now back to 500 on the season. And then we had the Florida Gators just absolutely dominating South Carolina. Nobody saw this score coming. It was 21-0 still in the first quarter, but Florida ends up winning it by the score of 38-6. And then an ugly, ugly football game. Auburn defeats Texas A&M by the score of 13-10. So Jimbo Fisher just continues to make offense just look worse and worse and worse. By the time the season ends, Texas A&M ain't going to be able to score. If you have any thoughts on any other games from yesterday, please feel free to let me know. As I said, the top 10 in the playoff poll should look different on Tuesday night because Oregon got beat and LSU struggled. But they didn't just struggle. They struggled with an average at best football team. So LSU should drop, but they probably won't. They'll probably jump since we had Oregon getting beat. The LSU should drop, but I still say it's going to be Ohio State 1 and Georgia 2. And I think we'll see Michigan 3. And I think we'll see TCU 4. And I think we'll see Tennessee at 5. So that's probably what the top 5 is going to look like. You might still see Georgia at 1, Ohio State at 2. Honestly, really, truly, I really don't think it matters who's 1, who's 2, who's 3, who's 4, as long as your top 4 is all that matters. But, you know, they do this thing on a weekly basis, and I think Ohio State looked more impressive yesterday than Georgia did. So that's why I say Ohio State goes to 1, but they may not. But like I say, it really don't matter. I've said since like week 2 that the best 2 teams in the country are Ohio State and Georgia. I still believe that, so I don't think it matters if you're 1-2 or 2-1. It really doesn't matter. But I think the top 5 stays the same, and Oregon, of course, they will fall. LSU should fall because they looked absolutely pitiful, but I don't think they will. But probably the only shakeup you'll see inside the top 10 will be Oregon. Of course, they'll fall out of the top 10. Not quite sure who will jump in because of the fact right outside the top 10 was Ole Miss, and they lost 2, so of course they're not going to be in the top 10. So my guess would be that Utah jumps into the top 10, but it might be USC, might be UCLA, but it'll be one of those 3 Pac-12 teams since we did see Ole Miss get beat, and they were number 11, I believe, in this past week's playoff poll. But any thoughts on any of it, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Believe it or not, only 2 more weeks left to go in the regular season, with the exception of the Army-Navy game, because first Saturday in December is all the conference championship games. And as I said, please go back and watch Friday's video, and please go back and watch Saturday's video. I know they were both late getting loaded, but there's lots of great topics in Friday's video. Plus, both videos have a dad joke, and it's always good to hear a dad joke. Speaking of dad jokes, let's go ahead and get today's dad joke in here. What state has the most streets? Rhode Island. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.